I'm Eric Harbaugh. On the latest fantasy-focused baseball podcast, the awesome Tristan Cockroft and I discuss Kyle Schwarber catching, Jose Peraza playing, Alex Reyes relieving, not really, plus closer carousel and your hash browns.
All the dogs are counting down, about to put the anchor down. Hotty toddy, who's it gonna be? Cowbells and swamp, the Aggies wrong. There's nothing like the SEC. The weekend's full of surprise.
Hit him with the flex.
From Williams Place to Death Valley. On the Finebaum Show, Paul's on the roll. If he don't get the best of me, call Paul.
Alabama.
It's your show. Go ahead.
They'll make sense of it all.
You got a damn burn crappy attitude.
Needles up on Rocky Top. The Razorbacks are hard to stop. War Eagles soaring in the wind.
Let me talk, Danny.
Okay, go.
Tigers rocking in the zoo. Wildcats are grinning too. Talk about the tide that's rolling in. The weekend's full of surprises. From big upsets to rivalries. On the Finebaum Show, heads are gonna roll. If they don't get the best of me, we'll call Paul. He'll make sense of it all.
I really don't know where to go after that.
Don't take those calls.
I could give you my address and phone number if you're ever in this neck of the woods.
In my life, I've never had a phone call like that. We welcome you back. Fun show. If you're just getting on board, you really missed it today. Great start to the program. Great start to the weekend. Let's get back to the calls at 855-242-7285. Dave in Long Beach, Long Beach Island, New Jersey. How are you, Dave?
Good, Paul. How about yourself?
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a while since I called, but I had a question for you, and actually a comment, too. My question is, I know the NCAA is reviewing the targeting penalties. Do you have much input on what they're looking to change?
I think they are trying, and I don't know how you do this, by the way. They're trying to come up with a means, and I'm sure I'll get this wrong, but to on hits that are in the gray area to have a penalty without ejection.
Okay, so they're still looking to, because I know sometimes when they call the targeting, there's not a yardage penalty, but there's a removal. So
right.
Would they add that in
I'll have to double check on that aspect of it. But I was reading about it today, and I missed that part of the reading. But I mean, right now it is such a judgment call. And by the way, there used to be. I remember a game years ago where they called the penalty. The guy was ejected. They reviewed it. They overturned it, but the penalty remained, and then they took that one off the books. That was a terrible penalty when there really was no penalty at all. But
yeah, exactly.
But they corrected that. I don't know how you make that determination though.
I do. I mean, there's been times where I've seen guys with the momentum going into a player, and it's kind
maybe
of a gray area.
Yeah.
But how do you pull up? You know, once you've kind of committed to that.
I mean, these penalties are there as deterrents, and I'll get a better clarification from rules officials and officials because I am not an official. Obviously, I barely can get to the game on time.
All right, and the other thing was just a comment on Harbaugh. The bottom line is he significant? No. If he didn't do all the antics and the stuff that he did, nobody would be talking about the guy. He's in a program that's mediocre at best, and if he doesn't do all these...
Well, as I said earlier, and again, I mean, he's made a difference. I mean, Michigan used to be important back in Herbert Hoover's administration, but I mean, he has 2 third-place finishes in his division without the satellite camps, without the sleepover, without the trips to Rome, without the shots at 4 SEC coaches and an SEC network host, we wouldn't be talking about him.
No, and like I said, I mean, does he really matter in the grand scheme of things? No, but But he has to do those ththings because otherwise he's a non-factor.
But by the way, I will give him this much credit. I mean, I think in the end he's helped himself. I mean, he walked into a league that, D'Antonio had built a reputation. Certainly Wisconsin, regardless of who the coach is, has been good. And Iowa's good every other or every third year. Penn State was down. They're back, obviously, now. And you're in Urban Meyer. I mean, you just couldn't come in there and be like Brady Hoke and Rich Rodriguez. You had to, and he was a legend. I mean, he was one of the more well-known players in recent history. So I don't mind him doing it. I said it last year. I think he has just simply become annoying because it just looks like and it feels like he's doing it for reaction. I mean, it's okay if you're a talk show host and you do things for reaction. It's different if you're head coach at one of the premier institutions in college sports.
Well, and, I mean, the old adage is, what have you done for me lately? And that's, the bottom line is that only carries so far. But, hey, I agree on your comment about Bo Schembechler. He's probably, his not winning a championship may haunt his legacy a little bit, but he was a good coach. There's no two ways about it. He
was, and I think, and I've done this years ago, but I mean, when you think about who are the best coaches never to win a title, he may be the best. There are a couple of other ones in that under consideration, obviously, but is it fair? No, but that's what you get. I mean, Dan Marino, guys like that, Charles Barkley, these are historic athletes who never won a title, and it affects their reputation a little bit.
I agree. Paul, again, great to talk with you. Always enjoy your show, and roll tide.
Thank you very much. I would say, and I can't put this list together off the top of my head, Pat Dye, the former Auburn coach, I think would be, I mean, he is to me one of the best coaches in college football, never to win a title. Bo would be in there. Who else? I don't know. There are probably a number of coaches that have achieved a certain level but fell that short. Thank you for the call. Greg is up next. Hey, Greg, thank you. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm well.
I'm a first-time caller, long-time listener. Just wanted to call in and share some information about something that you on a show that happened last fall. And it's not about Michigan or Jim Harbaugh or anything, but you had you had Tom Rinaldi on your show, and it was I guess 6-7 months or so ago when he came out with his book, The Red Bandana.
Yeah, I know that book well, considering it's on my night table right now. The Red Bandana is a story in the aftermath of 9/11.
Correct. Yes,
and
I just wanted
not the
to call in
of 9/11.
Yeah, I just wanted to call in and say, I'm not a big book reader, but huge fan of your show. Huge fan of Tom Rinaldi, and this book is an excellent read. And I just finished reading the book, and certainly encourage all of your listeners to read this book. Like I said, I know it's history 6-7 months ago.
No, well, let me say this though, Greg. Tom Rinaldi is in my mind the best interviewer in sports, and maybe anywhere for that matter. He's also one of the nicest, kindest people I've ever met. So I'm really glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a huge Rinaldi fan. And just love his stories on ESPN Game Day and his other stories that he tells. And when I watch this show, I love sports. I love your show and love Bama and SEC. But when I watched that show that day, I went out the next day, bought the book. Like I said, I don't read many books throughout the year. Busy with work and so forth.
No, but you have to have time to read.
And pick this book up, and I just got to just encourage all of your listeners. It's a great book. Pass it along to your families, and true emotion in the book, great research involved, and a true Rinaldi book. And I really appreciate you bringing it up on your show.
Thank you very, very much. Really glad you called. Let's check in next with Ryan in Philadelphia. Hello, Ryan.
Hey, Paul. Big fan, first-time caller. I'm a recent grad at University of South Carolina. Just wanted to hear your opinion on Jake Bentley and how he stacks up with the rest of the conference quarterbacks.
Wow, he's unbelievable. When not only when you consider what he did, but his backstory and his father and where he was and the connection to Will Muschamp at Auburn. I think Nick Fitzgerald and Bentley to me are the two quarterbacks that I'm really interested in next year, who are playing for teams that didn't do that well, but who could have significant impact.
All right. Thank
you.
My call, Paul.
Glad to hear from you from Philly. John Hayes, of course, is a Philadelphian. Eric is in Minnesota. Eric, thank you. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
Oh, we are doing great.
Good deal. So I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, and a Minnesota Gopher fan, which I guess puts me in the masochistic category. With the recent hire of P.J. Fleck, what impact do you think that'll have on recruiting? And, I mean, it's had some impact given the mess he stepped into.
Yeah,
but is it going to have enough of an impact to raise us above the pool of mediocrity we seem to aspire to every year?
You know, I think he will. I think Fleck is a game changer, and he came in late, so you can't really read the impact until next year. But I think he will. I thought and I wouldn't call him an interim coach because when he took over, he was named permanent, but he felt like an interim coach. And I think that program has upside. I mean, how much is hard to say. I don't know their schedule. So you always have to look at that and examine it. But I ran into a Minnesota fan the other day at lunch, and he was pretty upbeat. You're the second one I've talked to. I'm sure there's a third out there somewhere.
If you look hard enough, I'm sure there is. Yeah, this year seems to be more optimistic than most. So
I think I'll tell you what, though, you could have searched the country and not found a more dynamic coach than PJ. Though I think he will change the culture, which needs changing pretty badly.
Absolutely, it does, and hopefully he can bring the whole row the boat mentality. Now that he can officially use that up here, anyway.
I think he can. He can use some of it. Hey, thanks for the call. Really good to hear from you. I mean, that's a great hire, though. Let's go to Chris in Louisiana. Hello, Chris.
Hey, Paul. How you doing? It's been a long time.
Thank you.
Hey, concerning Hacksaw Reynolds, with this guy who called earlier.
Yeah.
Hacksaw played for the St. Louis Rams. Don't quote me on what game it was, but I think it was the Super Bowl that the Rams lost, and he was very frustrated, and he got a hacksaw, and he cut a car in half.
Is that where it came from? Wow.
That's where it came from.
I didn't know that. So that was an NFL moniker, not something he got in college.
No. I think he got it in the NFL.
Okay.
Because I don't know if it was a Super Bowl. Don't quote me on that, but it was a game that they lost. He was upset.
They played in the Super Bowl.
Yes. And I love your show. I listen to it every day. I can't call in like I want to because you're just too popular. And go Tigers. That's
nice of you to say. Thank you very, very much. Let's go to more phone calls here in a minute at 855-242-7285. We look forward to visiting with you on a Friday afternoon. Stick around. Much, much more to come. Let's get to the calls at 855-242-7285. Anthony is in Chattanooga. Anthony, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Glad you're here.
I was just wondering, do you think Butch Jones is going to step up for Tennessee, and is Tennessee at the top of their recruiting right now?
You know, I thought Tennessee had a good year in recruiting, certainly not as good as some years. So why is that? I don't know. Could be numbers, could be a miss here and there. I mean, they did get the number one player in the country, but I think Butch Jones has this program in a good position. But I do think this is an important year because after sliding back from expectations, and they were the pick to win the SEC East, I think Tennessee fans want to see the program continuing. They don't want to see it go backwards.
Right. I do agree. Do you see Peyton Manning coming back maybe as a quarterback coach or maybe just getting back into coaching?
You know, I've seen Peyton a few times lately, and he doesn't look like he wants to be tied down to anything. I see Peyton coming in and helping out from time to time, but I cannot imagine Peyton Manning wanting to devote his entire life now to being an assistant coach. with everything that entails. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. Thank you very much for the call. Andrew is in Akron, Ohio. Hello, Andrew. Thank you for the call.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for taking my call. I've been a longtime listener of yours, and unfortunately, here in Ohio, I'm a Michigan fan, and I've been intrigued with the banter back and forth with you and Coach Harbaugh. But I'm just curious, aside from the obvious of Michigan beating the Buckeyes, here in consecutive years and winning a Big Ten championship, what will Michigan and Harbaugh need to do to gain national respect over the next couple of years, if not sooner?
I think without beating Ohio State, they can't get it. And I really believe every year that goes. I think this was the best year. You know that. Michigan had that game won. Yeah. That game was over.
I watched the game with, my family, and, if Delano Hill would have come up and hit JT Barrett a little bit harder rather than throwing a forearm shiver, that could have been a different story. But, I agree. Coach Harbaugh's now 0-2, and if we don't win it this year, do you think he'll be on the hot seat, or
no?
What's
he is
not
going to be on the hot seat. I don't think that will ever be an issue, because I think Michigan fans. He is their leader. This isn't a football coach. This isn't your normal relationship between a fan base and a head football coach. This is more like a group of followers and their cult leader. That's the pull. That's the gravity that he has, or the gravitational pull that he has over this fan base. I think what happens is, if he doesn't win next year at home and then loses again 2 years from now in Columbus, I can't imagine him wanting to get beat every year by Urban Meyer. I just don't think it's in his DNA to get his head hammered. I don't think his team this year will be as good. I did check in with Danny Sheridan during a break. Danny said that Michigan right now is probably a 7-point favorite over Florida, whatever that means. It means that's the betting perception and a snapshot. But I think Harbaugh can't handle losing. And by the way, he's not alone in that. But some coaches have the maturity at 50. What is he? 53 years old. He just had a baby boy. He has 7 kids. For somebody who's 53 and has 7 children, he doesn't have much maturity.
Well, hopefully, things change, and kind of like some of your callers have said, it's some of the antics. And I love Coach Harbaugh. I played for a high school team that his backup quarterback played under Bo, was my head coach. So I had the opportunity to see, a Bo disciple, and, I've been a Michigan fan my entire life. But, it'd be nice to, beat the Buckeyes once, and I can wear my Michigan gear here in Ohio proudly again. So,
well, yeah, Andrew, just have faith, and maybe that'll help get you over Urban Meyer, even though he was named after a pope. John is up next in Knoxville. Hello, John.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
I'm well, thank you very much.
I was on a minute ago. I have one question I didn't get to ask.
Okay, go right ahead.
Do you remember when on your show you showed Urban Meyer being asked a question about Trent Richardson being brought back to run on the scout team when Alabama played LSU?
I do remember that, yeah.
Is that legal?
It is legal. And speaking of that, Trent Richardson was arrested today in Alabama. I haven't seen the charges. I think they involved... Let me wait before I misdemeanor domestic violence. So
quick follow up on that.
Yeah.
So UT. If you found they could bring Arian Foster or Peyton Manning or whatever run on the scout team.
Right now it's legal. I don't know how much longer it's going to be, but I didn't know Ohio State did it. I think obviously Saban did it. I don't know if it's that big of a deal, frankly. These coaches will do whatever is legal. May not be ethical. Clemson brought Taj Boyd back. It definitely is the rage. Booker in Hackensack, New Jersey. Hello, Booker.
Hello, Paul. Good to talk to you again.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was just listening in with the Harbaugh and the Big Ten, SEC.
Yes.
Where would you, and this is not a Big Ten or SEC coach. Where would you rate Bud Wilkinson in the coaching?
Oh, my. I mean, I don't want to make this list of great coaches too big, but I don't think you can do a legitimate coach of greatest coaches ever without Bud Wilkinson. I mean, he had two of the longest winning streaks in college football history. He was a superb coach. He's definitely, again, the problem with what we do today is that even people like me who have a great appreciation have been around. I mean, you tend to forget any coach that you didn't see coach, and I never saw him coach, but he has to be considered among the greatest coaches ever.
Right, and he was one of the first guys that left coaching to become an analyst.
Well, you know, his story is interesting. Bud left Oklahoma. I'm trying to remember the story. He did become. He was in the booth with Chris Schenkel and later I think Keith Jackson.
That's correct.
In the 60s, he ran for governor, I believe, in Oklahoma. And in any other year, he would have won. But he happened to run in 64, which was sadly the year after President Kennedy was assassinated. And the country just it was
Lyndon that was the Johnson Goldwater.
It was a landslide. Goldwater, see if this sounds familiar, was a very polarizing candidate who said things that did not necessarily jive with the mainstream media. And he was Johnson wiped him out, and Oklahoma went Democrat at the time, and Wilkinson lost. He later came back and was briefly the head coach of the St. Louis Rams. It was a very ill-fated comeback, and then I think he went back to the broadcast booth.
Right. Well, the reason I brought him up, because it was very interesting, the gentleman you had on from Vanderbilt about what's going on at Vandy this weekend.
Right.
Bud Wilkinson had African-American player Prentice Galt. Long before he played for the St. Louis.
Early 60s?
Early 60s, late when he had that 40-game winning streak.
Oh, no, that was in the 50s, wasn't it?
In the 50s. Prentice, G-A...
Oh, I had no idea. That's
Prentice, Prentice, G-A-U-L-T-T, Prentice Galt. He was a running back. And the reason I said that, okay, I live up in Hackensack, New Jersey, but I was born in Columbia, raised up in Anderson, South Carolina, and in Spartanburg. But I didn't know anything about the only ones that I thought played football played for Notre Dame, because every Christmas I got a football, and the only name on that football was Johnny Lujack.
Yeah, I remember that one.
And I can remember when Princeton had a Heisman Trophy winner by the name of Dick Kazmaier.
I've met him before, yeah.
Okay, and Notre Dame had this guy, Arby Lewis, I've met on several occasions. But some of the guys that are calling in, they're mixing apples and oranges, and this is just a whole another generation now with millennials and then the baby boomers and so forth. I grew up in the South, but I was a Big Ten fan because that's the only place except going to African American colleges.
Booker, you may have heard this story. There's this famous story. Guy did a book. Remember you're obviously familiar with the Sam Cunningham night.
Yes, Sam Bam Cunningham
in Legion Field in '70. Yeah. But there's a great book about that, and it starts off in Montgomery. There's a player I think he's on the Southern Cal team from Montgomery, and there's a group of African Americans sitting around listening to this game in Montgomery, Alabama, cheering for SC because of the very same reason that you just discussed.
That's exactly right, Sam Bam Cunningham. I remember that game very well. So I'm just saying Big Ten now, Big Ten then, SEC now, SEC then. You're talking about apples and oranges.
Yeah, no, it's not. The SEC was slow, and you know I've had this conversation with people who covered Bear Bryant at the time and others. Bryant Zealots claim that he tried to bring players in earlier, but who knows exactly? I mean, the environment in Alabama, was toxic, and it was elsewhere too.
Very much so. I just wanted to throw that in about Bud Wilkinson, because when you talk about Harbaugh, you talk about Bear, you talk about Nick Saban, you talk about Woody Hayes, but 40 straight wins that was finally broken against Notre Dame with this guy named Nick Petrosanti.
Right.
Ran a touchdown.
You know your football.
Well, I've been on top of the ground for a while, and I've been watching it.
I hope you stay there.
I'm hoping so too, because I'd rather be seen than viewed.
No, yeah, you don't. I like that. That might be my favorite line of the show. Hey, Booker, always a pleasure. I hope you'll call again.
I sure will, Paul. Thanks.
Wow.
Thanks for taking my call.
How cool.
All right. Bye-bye.
We will take a break. Booker calling us from Hackensack, dropping some knowledge on us there. Still plenty of time for you to get in here on a Friday night. Glad you're back with us here Friday afternoon. Let's continue with more phone calls. And Terry is up next. Terry, thank you. Good afternoon.
Hello, Mr. Finebaum. How are you?
Oh, we are well. Thank you very much.
I'm a first-time caller, but a long-time listener, and I respect you as a journalist and a broadcaster. You do a good job.
Thank you.
I got a couple of questions about Alabama and then a comment about Michigan. The first one is, do you think Alabama's offensive line will be better with all the redshirt offensive linemen they had this past year and the ones that they've gotten this year?
I think it's yes. I think I was about to say I think it's possible, but I actually think it is definitely going to happen. I think it will be better.
Because I saw where they had two guards that were like 4 or 5 stars that redshirted this past year.
Yeah, I mean, and I say that partly because I didn't think Cam Robinson had a great year last year, in spite of the fact that he'll be a top choice and he was an All-American. To me, he was a hair below what I thought he would be.
And Williams, I think the kid that was the freshman tackle on the other side, I think he'll just move over and take his place.
Yeah, no, I think he will too.
And the other question I have is, do you think that their defensive backfield should improve with their recruiting?
That's always difficult to say, but yeah, I know some people are a little concerned about Alabama's team, but I hear that every year, Terry. Yeah. And when you stockpile, it is a little bit. You're going to hit and miss on a few people, but I think when you think overall, I think I'm racing my mind through the defensive players right now, and I think they're going to be in great shape. That defense last year was downright nasty. I know it didn't end the season well, and it went from maybe the greatest defense we've ever seen to nobody brings that up again. But I think this defense can be very good. I'm not quite sure I'm ready to say better. I think the offense is going to dictate really the defense a little bit more. That defense needs a little help in shootout games against the best teams in the country, and it didn't get much help last month, as we all know. Let's continue with more calls. Zach is up next in Knoxville. Hey, Zach.
Hey, boss man. Have they increased your security on the SEC network, brother?
We have good security here now. The issue isn't here; it's when I get out of here.
Well, yeah, and I'll be honest with you, I get a little concerned for you because you get all these women calling you and sending you letters. How does your wife handle this, Paul? I believe I'd smack you when you come through the door.
She doesn't know. My wife thinks I'm an accountant.
Well, hey, that's the truth as far as you know, and you stick to it, Hoss.
Yeah, I tell her, listen, I'm not going to see you a lot this time of the year. It's tax season.
As long as she can cash a check, she'll be happy, I'm sure. And I mean no disrespect to your lovely wife.
She gives me an allowance every week.
That's the way it ought to be. Hey, Paul, I don't know if your producers can do this shorthanded, but I only call. I've called you about 12 times. I've been a faithful viewer ever since it's been on. I absolutely love it. I love your show. I love the SEC Network.
Thank you.
I tried to watch the Big Ten Network a time or two, Paul, and I'm not.
Hold on, Zach, before you say anything else, were you sentenced? Did you commit a crime, and that was your penalty?
I was trying to do penance a time or two, Paul, just to be honest with you. And I've often wondered, as much as your show is watched, this has just been amazing to me as I sit here and I've, like I said, watched it from the beginning. You get calls from Guam. You get calls from all over the world that are watching this program. And I'm sitting there thinking, if I am somebody that's over the Big Ten Network, I'm thinking, why can't we do this? I'm going to tell you why. You've got the worst programming that is so boring that Big Ten fans have to watch your program, and it's a burr under their saddle. And I think that's one of the biggest things is they just cannot stand the fact.
I don't know. Listen, let me be in full disclosure. A good friend of mine is actually their lead host, so they have some quality people there, but they don't have a show like this. And I think the Pac-12 network has the Pac-12 does have a network. They don't have a show like that. And you have to give the SEC a lot of credit for gambling on this, because when it was first announced, there were many people who thought it was a terrible idea. There may be a few who still do, but not quite as many as they did nearly 4 years ago.
Well, I wish I could have been an investor on the ground floor, I'll tell you that. But, hey, Paul, if your producers can at some time, if they could roll them pictures of Jim Harbaugh like they did the other day, maybe today, and there's one there of him smiling, just the biggest smile you've ever seen. And I looked at that and I said, that's the Joker. And if you were to put Batman's nemesis on his face, it is. You roll it across and you look at it. It's the Joker. And that's what that guy is doing right now. I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna get off here, but I'm gonna tell you what he's doing right now.
Maybe if he loses his job, is there a new Batman movie coming out?
Yeah, Lego Batman.
Okay.
Hey, but what I'm saying is this guy's all about himself. I don't mind him doing things and try, but Jim Harbaugh is about Jim Harbaugh. And listen, as a faithful Tennessee Volunteer fan, I watched our program decline because we brought in two people, Derek Cooley. Cooley was the first one that worried more about his pants and his hair than he did the program. And then, as I said before, he who shall not be named was another one that was all about himself. But Jim Harbaugh, I'm telling you, he's taking the cake. And you mark my words, I'm the one that called you and predicted Alabama historically had probably reached its high water mark. Hope I'm wrong. But you mark my words. If you're going to Michigan, you're going to be winding up disappointed because your coach is not about you. He can tell you anything he wants to. He's about Jim Harbaugh. And that's the forecast. Have a good night, Paul.
Really great call. Thank you. I'm in. Can you top that?
You know, it's not about topping it. It's about being involved. But I will say this. I don't understand all this manufactured hate towards Harbaugh, Saban, Urban Meyer, these kind of people, because they're so unique to themselves. They are a topic of conversation. So even though Saban's done very well against Auburn in the college football world, it's not a hate thing. It's a very unique thing that I'm able to witness and be a part of. And I just happen to be a guy that has a comment and a commentary because of what I see and hear. And there's so many people that approach these guys, it almost sounds like a manufactured hate that they don't even know why. Why you don't like that guy? I just don't like him. Paul don't like him. I don't like him. But I'm not that way. You know, talking about your show, programming is one thing. Programming is a formula, just like a recipe. But what is so unique, and there's people out there that have shows just like this, Paul, but what they don't have and they can't have, because if you don't have it, you can't manufacture it, you can't teach it, you can't bottle it, you can't do anything. There's personality here that explodes through the speakers. nobody else is going to have this show ever. This show is right here. It can't be duplicated. And so much of that is you, because of the way you just kind of carry yourself. You don't comment on everything. You do more listening than you do commenting. And when I hear, and I tell people this all the time, well, what's it like talking to Paul? I want to talk to him. I said, listen, if the dude starts talking to you, that's when you better be careful, because you've done something. You have piqued his interest. He may be your best friend. He may eat you alive in front of the world, and he's good at it. But it's personality, Paul. Have a great weekend.
Thank you for the call. Hi, man. We will be back. Still time to go on a Friday afternoon. Some places it's almost Friday night. Like the sound of that. We'll be right back. We welcome you back. Glad you are with us. Let's continue with more calls, and we haven't heard from this lady in a while. Phyllis
Hey,
is up
Paul,
next.
how you doing? Listen, I'm pissed at Harbaugh. I'm really mad at him. He's the audacity that man's got. Look, he has a good coaching job. He makes millions a year. He don't leave the other coaches alone.
He makes $9 million. I think he makes $9 million a year.
Well, you know, Lottie freaking dog. I don't really care about that. I tell you what I care about is him keeping his nose out of the University of Alabama and keeping his nose away from you. You've done nothing to the man but speak the truth, and everything you say about him has been proven. He's entitled. He thinks he's uppity. He thinks he's better than everybody else. Harbaugh, you ain't better than nobody. I'm surprised you even got the coaching job. Your ego goes hundreds of feet up in the air, and God, is anybody going to bring you down? You'd probably pop before you hit the ground. You'd be nothing but a big fat balloon, because that's all you're full of is hot air. And don't you be actor Paul, and don't you dare come down on the University of Alabama. I will eat your ass for lunch, and I can make that a promise. Are you there?
I am. I'm listening to every word and nodding my head.
I'm sorry. It's just I got so mad at him a while ago. I just, especially seeing the newspaper.
I mean, Phyllis, let me say this. I mean, he didn't physically assault me. He just took a shot at me in a tweet. Okay.
I don't care. It was wrong of him to do that. Very wrong of him to do that. And then assuming that we're cheating and other teams are cheating and this and that. How do we look? They haven't won a national championship in a while. How do we know they're nothing but a bunch of cheaters?
Well,
I
mean, listen. They took a player. They took a player out of Georgia this year that there were a lot of raised eyebrows. Let's put it that way.
Well, I would not doubt that at all. And he's probably trying to sweep him under the rug by throwing out things at Saban and other coaches around here. He's out of his freaking mind. Harbaugh, get on your own field, and you leave everybody else's field alone. They got enough to handle, except for your butt. I'll be on your butt. Don't you come down here.
Man, would I love to see you and Jim Harbaugh meet.
I would. Oh, no problem. No problem. You just name the place, and you name the area. I'd love to speak my mind to him.
You know what I would like even more? You know what I would like even,
when he's looking so uppity and like he's so much better than other people. Well,
that's Phyllis. You just nailed it. Michigan people think they are better than everyone else.
Well, I've got news for them. You're not Michigan. You're not one iota better than anybody else in the country, especially Alabama. So keep your mouth shut, and you better tone that coach down you got. Because I'm going to tell you something. they're going to find him. They're going to find him and see his true colors. And when they do, Katie, bar the freaking door. Roll, Tide, roll.
Yeah, kind of like they did at Stanford and San Francisco and pretty much everywhere else he's ever been. Thank you, Phyllis. We appreciate it. Have a good weekend. 1 hour to go. Stick around.
Hey, Low Post listeners, this week on the podcast we have Howard Beck of Bleacher Report talking Serge Ibaka, Kevin Love, the MVP race, and his great feature on Thon the Curve.
I'm Andy Katz, along with my co-host Seth Greenberg on the latest edition of Courtside with Katz and Coach G. We're going to break down the top 16 with NCAA Tournament Selection Committee Chair Mark Hollis, and also be joined by South Carolina head coach Frank Martin.
The NBA All-Star Game this Sunday.
Here's Curry behind the back, half-court heave on its way, and he hits it!
Coverage begins Sunday at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.